Hello, hello, Fem Talk Nation. Boy, do we have an amazing show for you this evening. There is so much to talk about, and I'm sure that all of you have been paying attention to the news and social media. So much to cover. But tonight we are talking also about, just preparing for 2025. I know that we are already in this year, but it is not too late for you to plan and be productive and do all the things that you want and need to do. So let's bring in the beautiful ladies of Fem Talk. We have Dr. Melissa Simmons.
Hello, FEM Nation.
Hello, hello. And we have Shima Shishi Talk. Oh, and we can't hear you, Shishi. You are on mute.
I'm muted. Probably
Unmute yourself. We want to hear what you have to say.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you now.
Hello, Fem Talker. I was probably backstage saying some stuff I probably shouldn't say.
All right, so let's get into it. So
let's do it.
For everyone out there, you know how sometimes we like to start the show. Hotter topics, right?
Hot and the topics get.
Yes. So the first one we want to talk about is the rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What does everybody out there think about that? Now that so many businesses have started to roll back those initiatives, right? So you've been hearing about it on social media big time. So I wanted to give you a little kind of synopsis of what's been happening, right? So there's one view that says, and I won't name any names because that's not necessary. I'm sure people are divided, right? There's one view that says, go into these businesses that are now rolling back DEI and purchase from, and I'm going to say this here on Fem Talk, from Black business owners, particularly women Black business owners, right?
Right.
This is where the argument was coming from. So to purchase from these minority businesses that are now mainstream, that have made it, that have these contracts, they fought for this. I want to make sure that I put that out there. They have fought for this. This did not come lightly. It didn't come easy. They were in business for years before they even got to mainstream. So they fought for this. Now they're in these mainstream stores, and now these stores are rolling back DEI. So some of the business owners are saying, go into these stores, purchase our items, still please purchase our products so that we can continue to thrive as a community, right? So that we can still contribute to the economy, right? So that's the side of some of the business owners. They're saying, please go in. We don't want to now be forced out, because that's what will happen if their products do not sell. They are going to be forced out, because when they start to sign these contracts, they have to meet certain quotas that they have now agreed to with these businesses. They have to sell a certain amount in order to stay
there, to maintain the contract, right?
Absolutely. So that's one view. The other side of this is some people are saying that for the business owners to ask for the constituents, the consumers, to go in and to purchase the merchandise, right, that they have in these stores is like passive aggressive manipulation. A little strong in that point. But the other point that they were making is sometimes you have to struggle to start a revolution in order to get things to change, right? So we want to know what you all think out there about these two opposing sides, right? And which one are you going to do? Because as some of the business owners mentioned, you can go in the store, you can only purchase the minority business products and then come out. You don't have to purchase anything else from these stores that are actually rolling back now. So I want to hear your views on this.
That's if you know which ones they are. Okay. And I'm just going to say, because I think she's one of the more popular ones, Tabitha Brown. She's out there. So, and her products in the stores, let me say this, in the stores that they are in, let's be very clear. Target has already targeted certain brands for certain areas in the country. So every store does not carry all of these products. So let's be very clear about that.
That's right.
I live in an area that does not carry a lot of these products. Okay. Now, if you live in an urban setting, or, you know, I call it the U of the country, which is the, you know, on both coasts, and then towards the bottom where there's more urban development, you may see some of these things in those stores, but you don't see this in every store. So already it's a picking and choosing that they implemented. So now to go into the store and say, I'm only going to purchase these brands, it's not as if they're advertising. Yeah. At first they did. A couple of years ago when these brands came out, I remember the advertisements. I remember the brands. I bought a lot of those clothes because they were, I mean, clothes and products, because it said something. They were different. It wasn't your average go to a department store type of fashion. Now it's not as evident. They're not as bold to, you know, they used to have, if you remember, launches for them. So you would see the brand come out with the designer and have a launch. They stopped that. The last couple of years, they did not have launches. So if you found those clothes, it was kind of tucked away. And again, you don't even know who some of the designers are. So
I want to make another point too, because a young lady on social media who went into a Target store to purchase, and you've said Tabitha Brown, she went in there to purchase Tabitha Brown items. She did something very interesting, which I thought was amazing, right? She said that she was looking for certain items. She knew that's what she was going in there for. She said she wanted to, you know, kind of fill up on Tabitha Brown products. She had things in mind. She had already had things picked out. She went in there and she couldn't find a lot of the items, but the store said that those items were in stock. So she made them go look for every item that she wanted in order for her to be able to purchase it. And she came out with the products that she needed. And she showed them, they're here, they're in stock. I need you to go find them because I want to purchase them. So, you know, if you are looking to support these business owners, you know, do the same thing. Do your homework. If you know, figure out what it is that you want, see where it's in stock, and go in there and ask for it. They have to, if they have it in stock and they mention it, they have to go look for it. Right. So
and you wonder, is there a purpose? Was that on purpose not to stock some of this stuff?
Right.
Leave it in the back. If they don't
leave it in the bag, it won't sell. You know,
because that goes back to the point of if they don't sell it, right, and they don't meet the whatever their contract says, if they don't abide by the contract, right,
they get removed.
Right. Exactly.
There's another Black-owned brand that I stumble upon. A woman. How many areas can you be minority? And it was a black unicorn line of clothing, and just everything with it, everything cute and wonderful. And I saw it here in Northeast. And I was just in Texas the week before. Nothing. And so I see a bit of it. And I was in Target every day. And I asked, because I went right back. I was there in September. I went right back in October. No, that line is sold out or something. I said, so there's no, there's no clearance. I said, why is there nothing showing on clearance? Because it's a recent release. So you have nothing. You completely sold out in this area I was in Target. Oh, yes, we completely sold out. It's such a great line. Now, listen, she works there. So I'm pretty sure they've given her the words to say.
Right.
To appease the customers. But it's like you said, it's already pre-planned. You've planned if they're going to succeed. And if they do, what does this do? It's short-lived. Because like I said, they're not going to be able to fulfill their contracts. But they're not even going to get the real recognition, because somebody like me, if they have a full website, I'll go straight to the website.
Right.
You know, I don't want to not, like you said, well, what are we going to do? Those are my stores. I go to Target. I go to Walmart. Y'all know I'm in Home Depot all day long. That's my favorite place. It's almost my happy place.
Yeah. Right. There was another.
But I also going directly to the seller. but is everybody going to do that?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So listen, those stores are convenient for people, right? They're usually in everybody's neighborhood, regardless of what they carry. They're there, right?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
and a lot of times you have to, some of those agreements is that they don't have that distribution or their own stores. So those are the only ways you can get those products. So, and I'll flip and say the opposite. So, you went down the list, and these are the different companies that have supported, the new administration. And and these are how, and any of those companies, a lot of them are not doing DEI. On the flip side, let's talk about Walmart, who is maintaining their DEI, and a couple other big names. And I'll mention the brand Danielle Brooks is a new brand in Walmart. So, so there are options if you see the other side, like you said, both sides of it.
Yeah.
Me, it's
Walmart is not maintaining.
They're not?
No, Walmart just rolled back also.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Sorry.
They did.
There's
several businesses. Yeah, there's several businesses now, and I don't have the list. I wish we had the list here, but
yeah,
we can get that for you and post it to the page, because there's several big box businesses like that, right? That are now rolling back. DEI.
And the rollback is also in the staffing, is the hiring process, and all of that stuff. And it is.
So here's
I'm silent because we could go down a road, and I don't want to, but the effects in less than a year, in the next 6 months, let's just take 6 months. Let's look at this in 6 more months and see what these effects really have done. And I work in business. Most of I work in public education, and the email came out today that all federal grants are on hold. On hold. So much so, the anybody working for Head Start could not draw down funds today that they were already given. Could not draw. Federal grants operate on a cost reimbursement basis, meaning you have to spend the money and get the money after. So they don't front you money. You get money after you have spent it. So this money has already been spent, and they could not. A few places could not even make payroll today because the money has been frozen. I mentioned.
And what does that do to people who get federal money for colleges? I know we talked about the children. We talked about, and it's horrible for everybody. I'm not saying it's not, but prior to the show opening, the FEM Talkers, we were talking about who it affects. And then my mind just popped on those college students.
Well, they did. Pell Grants have not been frozen. And so Pell Grants and some of the federal college grants have not been frozen, but 2,600 others have been. That include school meals for low-income students. That is the National Food Lunch Program. I'm in a few districts that the 100% of the students eat based on that. They have populations that are 80%, 70%. 85% of the students have their main meals from school. WIC program, the WIC nutrition program for pregnant women and infants is on hold. Wildfire preparedness for the Department of Interior, the Medicare enrollment assistance program. I can go on and on. These are major programs that are lifelines to people. Lifelines. Not arbitrary. This is what you eat and live on.
Yeah. And
these programs are on hold. So this is DEI. This is bigger. Those initials. I cringe every time somebody brings those initials up, because those initials was a positive thing.
Right.
This is affirmative action. Another word for affirmative action. To give an opportunity for people that never had it.
Right. And they're saying
can't do the job. It means it's giving you the opportunity to get the job.
That's right. And they're saying that, in his speech, in his inauguration speech, right, he said that, things should be based on merit. However, we know that we don't even get the opportunity to show our merit, right? We don't get the opportunity oftentimes to even show that, to be able to say that anything is based on merit, because as Dr. Melissa said, you have to get there. You have to get there first. You have to be able to put your foot in the door, right? So this is what this is going to start to disparage, the foot in the door.
Right, the foot in the door. I'll use me for example. Because of my certification and because I'm retired, I'm on a list. If any district needs a certified BA, I'm on that list, right? Anybody could tell you I have my experience outweighs most people. Mm-hmm. I'll say it proudly, and I know God gave it to me, so this is not about arrogance. Mm-hmm. And when one of my superintendents was given a list of who he can go hire, mm-hmm. in an urban district, and many people do not have urban district experience like I have. I was not even on the list, and forget a qualification. I blow qualifications out the window when it comes to urban districts, mm-hmm. unlike most people. And I wasn't even on the list. This is not about equity. This is about people being given the opportunity that their counterparts, right, are given regularly. Right. So this is not about our inability or our merit to do anything. Mm-hmm. We run circles around most, because we were trained and taught to do that. So this is not about us getting a free shot at anything. Mm-hmm. This is about us getting the opportunity to show you we can do it and do it well.
And this is something that Shishi and I talked about, right? But that is a point where they're not so concerned about who's working inside, and I'm going to say this, right? Inside a Walmart or a Target, where you have the people who decide what's going to happen in a company, right? The executive, this is where this is going to really hit home, right?
Because they don't want you there.
Exactly. Because then you have the opportunity to help make decisions around what the company does, right? And they don't want us in those positions to make decisions.
They don't want us to stop. They don't want.
Mm-hmm. They don't want us to make the decisions. They also don't want us to know the game plan.
Yeah.
The what?
Not even
the game
plan. Not even to be in the room.
Yeah.
To see what the next step is. Not even to say anything. They don't even want you to know.
Yeah.
No, they don't want you to know because. Okay.
Because it doesn't include.
I'm gonna drop something. It's in the art. It's in two newspapers right now, and they don't want you to know the game plan. The game plan to destroy the fabric of the country. They don't want you to know the game plan. There's a article that talks about some the people at the tables plan to not educate students. Mm. And there was this whole plan to get rid of students, keep them ignorant. They can't read, they can't write, and to pass them along, get them out of the system and move them by. Mm. They don't want you to hear these plans, but these are some of the plans that they have. When we discover these plans, because we're not at the table, then we're thrown out of districts and places because they don't want the plan to stop.
And I'm going to say this before we move on, and then we need to get to tonight's subject, but that is every system, right? And you could go down the line. That is every system. There are plans, right, to discredit, to hold back certain demographics so that we can't progress, that we can't move forward, that, you know what I mean? We can't make money, right? And these are systems. These are systems.
These are systematic. Thousands of people. That's right.
Listen, it is all over. So listen, I want people to wake up. Wake up. Start to educate your children at home, even if they are in the school system. Make sure that you are educating your children at home as much as you can do to help feed the children that are out here. Because listen, even though we're adults and we're thriving, right, we need to continue to move forward, right? But that next generation is in trouble.
Right.
is in trouble. I have a son who is graduating high school this year, right? Now, with this administration doing all that it is doing now in the first month that they got in here, think about what's going to happen to these kids now that are coming out of school.
Right.
Coming out of high school. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a, you know, and again, I know we have to end, but you know, this is going to be a systematic destruction of the, you know, this is now a brown country. This is a systematic destruction to end that. The, you know, the ICE is out there trying to get into schools.
Yeah.
Thank God for those principals.
Yeah.
Those principals and those people in the trenches that are not letting them in these schools.
Yes.
They are going anywhere to snatch children and families apart and send people. They have planes of people going back to countries.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad. We're gonna end here. We're gonna take a quick commercial break to kind of reset. But we really want everybody out there, think about what's happening. You know, start to do what you can to support your communities, the people in your communities, minority-owned businesses. Make sure that you continue to support, right, so that we can continue to thrive in this economy and in this new administration. Okay,
absolutely.
And we will be right back. All right, and we are back. So let me bring the ladies back in because I have something else to get into. So, you know, I think that was a great segue into tonight, right? Because now we're going to give you some tools and tips on how you progress in this new, how you can start to plan out your life, right? Around all this craziness that's going on, we still have to push forward, right? We still have to continue to do, we still have to have faith and push forward. So we're going to start to talk about the journaling. So Dr. Melissa, take it away.
Take it away. One of the things I love so much is planning and journaling and really like setting your year in motion. I call it setting a year in motion. And Coach Tracy and Coach Shima, we all learned under the great Dr. Deidre Anderson how to go about this. And we have all kind of taken it under our own brand and kind of are doing it in different ways. I know Tracy does a lot of planning when it comes to health and wellness. And Shima, she's on all about traveling and how we go about doing that thing, you know, how we go about doing traveling. And you know, I'm in the business arena and with women leadership. I do it a lot around women's leadership. So in all of those facets, what we try to do is kind of lay out like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? I know last year I did goal setting on 2 different arenas. I did it for my own personal life that include my business plans and my company plans and my personal plans, meaning me, even though I'm married, I have personal plans that I want to do for myself. I have personal things I want to achieve. So I laid all 3 of those goals out on my vision board, right? And all 3 of them, I have to say, not only came to pass, but some of them were blown out the water. There is such a power. You know, the Bible says, the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, and it shall surely come to pass. So when you have a vision, it's important to put it out there and to understand the power of the vision. But it also talks about write it down and make it plain. There's this cathartic process that happens when you take a vision that you have in your head and you put it down on a tablet. God talks about tablets. Whatever your tablet is, you take that vision and you're able to now write it down and make it plain, meaning you see it. And when you start seeing things and visualizing that, that starts this process within yourself that you now start unfolding. And then once you start unfolding that in your mind, now you start putting actions to it. Because the vision that we, that we all kind of work on it, and I do, is that we now put action to it. It's not just a vision. We say, okay, based on this vision, this is the goals that I need to do to achieve this, to get to this level in that vision. Because the vision may be your family vision, for example. Say you have a vision, and I said, I'm in my vision, say I'm a young person, I say, I want to have a family of 3. I want to get married. I want to do this. That's a vision, right? But you can't do that in one sitting, right? You can't do that in 1 year. That takes a while to plan that out. So your vision becomes all these specific goals that you put together each year. So, right? So that in time, that vision becomes this journey of goals that you set forth every year, so that each year you make a mark. Okay, I've gotten here now. Let me get here now. Let me get there now. And it moves on, so that when you look back, you can now see what that each goal each year has made you, allowed you to achieve.
Absolutely.
I love that. Now, on Sunday, the pastor preached about that, like making that future plan and having that vision for the future. But what he talked about too was, also paying attention to what's right in front of you and starting to take that step by step. Because he's like, if you look way too far in the future, even though you have the plan and you should, but you still got to take the steps to get there. So pay attention to what's right in front of you.
Where you
so
are,
that you don't
right?
stumble and fall, right? Pay attention to where you are.
I think that was the best part about the analogy.
Yeah.
Is the example, because he was walking up some stairs. So if I'm watching where I'm going and only where I'm going, how do I stairs?
Yeah.
Without falling.
Yeah.
And I think when that also for me interprets, like, where am I today? Who am I today? You know what I'm saying? You could say your vision is, okay, I want to get married and have children. But where are you in that process in terms of a relationship? Where are you in terms of your body? Sometimes you could say, I want to do all these things, but have you gone to the doctor? You know where your body stands in terms of what can your body achieve, meaning based on your health, based on your makeup, based on things that you may need to figure out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things, and I agree. Sometimes we have these goals, but we have to first assess where we are and who we are.
Yeah.
And that's, and I want to stop right there, because a lot of times people don't really have a real understanding of who they are.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that first step, and I still do this step, so it's not even so much that you don't know who you are, but we change often, right? We grow, we mature day by day, we hope, right? But we're usually not in the same mindset that we may have been a year ago.
Yeah.
And that could be a good or bad thing. But it's so important to always take this self-reflection or this self-assessment of who we are today, where we are today, and what we want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think those assessments every year makes considerable difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
we all have done. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, we all of us have done specific things, to further our growth and understanding of who we are, what we want in this world, how to get there. And I always go back to one exercise that we've done where we wrote the letters. You guys remember we wrote those letters to the other people asking show up. And I can remember the feeling in doing it the first time and saying, I don't want to, I don't know if I would do this. It was good the first time, and I liked the feedback, even whether it was good or bad. But would I continue this? But I find myself even if I don't literally do it, I find myself evaluating my relationships at this time of year always in that manner, because I've learned through that experience that I do want to show up differently.
Yeah.
And when I say relationships, that means with work, with family, with church, God, everything. So I always think about that exercise, even if I don't physically do it, because I want to show up better than I did the year before.
Yeah, that's huge.
I love it. It's funny how it impacts you in a way that it's like it's etched on your soul, because I don't forget the fact that I need to be mindful of how I'm showing up in all these arenas. And like you said, we're out there, we're making strides. There's more arenas. It's not gonna. The more you do, the more you will be involved in, the more you'll have. Yeah. So there's more arenas. You always want to be mindful of how you're showing up in those arenas if you want them.
If you want them.
Yeah.
If you want them.
And one of the tools that for anybody that's listening that may be curious to like even do what Shima just talked about is like this assessment. One of the tools that I use is a wheel. You take a wheel and you divide it into you could divide it. This wheel I would divide into six pies, right? Six slices of the pie. And you would put family, friends, God or spirituality, finances, career, and health. Six. There's a few others you could add in there, but let's just take those six, right? That kind of covers the gamut, right? So if you take those six, and each pie is worth 100, and shade in where you feel you are in that pie. So if I was to take that pie and I was to go to the family slice, I would say I'm at 90, because all last year and my efforts from last year to now, I've poured time into my family. I've poured time into my sons, my daughters, my husband, my invited family, to gatherings. We had a great family trip this summer with the larger family. So I would put me in a 90. Is there still room to grow? Yes, because I'm not at 100, right? But I did so much in terms of family last year that I know I've really moved that pendulum when it comes to family.
And I have to ask the question, right? Like, are you ever really at 100 in any of those areas? Right. You know what I mean? Like 90 is amazing because that's, you said, I'm going to focus here. But there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth, right? There's always room for progression. So I would challenge anybody who puts 100 somewhere, right?
Like
there's
no room, right?
Exactly. There's always an opportunity to make some changes for the better.
And I think that's where the growth comes in at. And I think that's where every time, this time of the year is a great time to kind of look and really reflect. That, I really did a great job. Like, I really did a great job, but I know I could do some more. Like the other day, my auntie called me, and she called me a couple of times, and I said, I'm going to have to go out there and visit auntie. I have not seen auntie. I call her Tia. I haven't seen Tia in a long time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have to take a trip. So again, I felt I'm at 90, right? But I know I haven't seen Tia, and there's about 3 Tias I need to see, all in the same kind of area. So I need to get out there and see Tias, you know what I'm saying? Right. But again, you see that improvement. I did a great job. I really put some effort and love into that part of the, that part of my pie, but I still got some growth to do. Like you said, Tracy, it's not all done. It's not all done. Yeah. And those are the things you could do. You could do the same thing with friends. I worked on friendships also this year. I worked on them, and I wasn't, at the beginning of the year, I was probably in the 70s. If you ask my bestie, she was, I had some fixing to do. And especially now that we're so far apart, we lived in the same proximity for 20 years together. That was easy to build the friendship. Now, not so much.
Yeah.
Not so much. So I remember when I made that effort to say, I'm going to visit my friend. This is the investment, the plane ride. We're going out there to see them. That was good, but that's not enough. So I made some improvements, but there's still some improvements to do. Checking in, texting, making a phone call, how you doing, all those kind of things, just to keep connected. You know what I'm saying? So again, not as high as the 90 I was at. I would say now maybe it's 75, you know what I'm saying? But there's some more things I need to do to grow our relationship so we don't lose, anything in it. And I know y'all could talk about the same thing in terms of, y'all was together for 30, 40 plus years. And then, now you're separated. Yeah. How do you keep that built? And I know y'all are always visiting and talking and stuff like that. And those are things that, I would put on my pie because that's important to me to build and keep my bestie, close and comforted and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's just like Tracy said last week on both the shows, the FEM Talk show and the Whole Living show, celebrating the wins.
Yeah.
If you hit a 90 with your family, and even you started at a 70 and ended up at a 75 with your friends and your relationships with your bestie, it's a win. That means more. You increased it. And I think the win too is you recognize that there was work to be done.
Right.
And put the work in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When we get so bogged down by the world and so many other things that's happening, and God knows there's a lot happening right now, to be able to cut through all of that and still have focus and have yearn to grow in those areas. Celebrate that.
Yeah.
Celebrate it.
And I would even say this is more of a time, right, for us to be intentional about whatever it is. The family, of course, family and friends, of course, right? Be intentional to check in. But for all of the goals that you have in all 6 of those areas that Dr. Melissa mentioned, it is imperative that we do that now more than ever, right? Because of what's happening in the world, right?
In a day, things change, this watching so many of those people that lost their homes in LA and in the surrounding areas. It was in minutes that they had to make a decision, and now everything they had is gone. Yeah. It shows you how fleeting life is, right? How quick something can change. Things that you are so used to, things that you have, that you cherish, how quick those things can go. So that checking in, like you're talking about, Tracy, that being able to look and say, cherish these moments and really, be intentional about what you do and why you do it is so important. One of the things that I was thinking that some people, especially based on what we was talking about earlier, you may want to create another pie and say political activeness, political action or becoming involved. I love, anytime you hear, Barack or Michelle, President Obama's talk, they talk about being involved. And the best way to get involved and making a difference is starting at the grassroots level and joining whatever, if it's a school board or whatever it is, start there, start somewhere so that your voice can be heard. And you may, in all of this turmoil and changes that you may or may not, be in agreement with, this may be the perfect time to maybe create a new slice of the pie and say, you know what, I'm going to try to become a bit more active because this is important to me. This is something I want to put my voice to. I don't know how. And then you could look into that. That could be a goal you set right now and then figure out with some steps how you can, okay, I'll call my local this, I'll call this person, and I'll find out how I can become more involved. It may start, we part of a homeowner, a homeowners association. It can start there.
Absolutely.
Right. Most of these things are volunteer based, but you become a voice that now, based on your participation, can affect change.
Yeah.
So again, these are all.
Yeah, and I want to put something else out there too. Tighten up your personal business, your legacy part of your business, right? Tighten those areas up too, right? Where you consider, how am I investing? How am I passing on, some education to my children and the children in my community, because it just doesn't have to be just your child, right? But how am I passing these things on? What have I learned over the years that's going to allow people to thrive? You know, when it comes to what am I doing for retirement? Do I have life insurance? You know, do I have a living will or trust? How do I set things up? I know that for me this year, that stuff has to tighten up even more so than it was before. And I'm saying this because of the climate that we are in, right? We need to make sure that those things are tightened up. So even in that area, but I would say once you learn and go into these things, if you don't know about them, go into them and get educated, but then pass it along, right? Because these are things that have been kind of kept separate from some communities, right? And we want to make sure that we are thriving in all areas. So as you learn, as you grow, start to spread the news, spread the information so that other people can thrive also, because it shouldn't just be, and I'm saying this, right, that the 1% are the ones that are thriving and getting all the benefits from what's out there, right? People need to know these things. So start to tighten up those things too.
You know, and when you say tighten up those things, and let me say this, the more you do, the more you get in terms of the effort. And one thing I do believe is that when we start doing things, we start benefiting from them.
Right.
Just because we didn't grow up, you know, learning how to write a will, for example, doesn't mean we can't do it now.
Right.
You know, like you mentioned, you know, and this, I call it life planning based on what you're saying. You know, it is known amongst our community that we don't do wills, but we do with or without assets, because we all know when people die, there's always confusion. Always confusion, confusion. And it could be about the littlest thing to the biggest thing. It could be about who's going to make the decisions. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
One of the things that I say, and you talk about legacy, that could be another, you know, thing that you start really considering is what legacy are you going to leave? Legacy was a word that I put on my board last year. Last year I put legacy, and I said, and you know, the business I have, it's a representation of myself, Lamont, Ashley, Nicholas, and CJ, and that's how the business name came about. And so it's intentional. From I created it years ago. I created this, and we didn't do anything, or we did very little under that. Okay, so when you think about goals and planning, it could be something that may dormant for a while, but when you get certain ideas down, remember I said write them down, make it plain. The vision is set. So years ago, I set this vision, and then once I retired, it was time to execute on it. So there was at least a 10-year gap from when I set that up to now, right? So now a couple of years ago, we started working on it. But last year I said, now it's time to establish legacy. And I tell you, I did not know what that meant. I didn't know I didn't know how it would come about, but it was on my vision board, is establishing legacy for the business I created. Little did I know that part of that was to now bring on board one of my sons. And now we do this as a team. Who knew? But the power in writing down that word legacy when it came to the business unleashed the power that came together through God, that had him come through us to now create his rest of his plan for a career that made him join us in doing it. Isn't that crazy? It's powerful.
Yeah.
But that's what was executed by writing that down. So when you think about these things you want to lay out, be real, really be thoughtful. Life planning, what legacies are going to leave? How are you going to leave those legacies? Another thing I did this Christmas was I bought myself a book writer, meaning there's this app or this product that you can buy, and every month they send you a question, and you're supposed to answer that question about your family. And then even what you can do is ask other people about that question, and then you write it down and you send it off. They're going to ask that every month. So by the end of this year, I will have a book of legacies and questions and answers about my family that I can now share amongst my sisters, my children, my cousins, my aunties. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Trying to create legacy, but writing it down because it came from a question. Does anybody know how Daddy made that thing that made this quote unquote food that we can't make anymore?
Right.
That's how it came about because we was talking over Christmas. All these kinds of foods we don't know how to make anymore.
It'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds and how they kind of combine everything into a book. That's gonna be
I'm excited to see it.
It sounds like it could be a conversation. That sounds like an easy flowing conversation, like a day with your family type thing.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you get a chance, share that app, right? Maybe some people here are interested also in doing something like that with their families.
I definitely will.
And I said that because that will kickstart. And when I was thinking about us talking about the journaling and moving forward, being productive in this new year, it's so many ways that you can. Like you said the other day, Tracy, write it down in your phone, put it in notes, use the notes app. You have the book app. Some people are still list takers. I'm list makers, sorry, not takers. And for me, I'm visual. I love a good Post-it. I'll put a Post-it everywhere. And I mean everywhere. So whatever, I guess the gist is, and what we want to make sure you're doing is getting it down. Melissa said it so many times. Make it plain. Write it down. Get it out of here and get it into a working format. So you can follow it. What your paper and your pen and your notes taker and your book app is doing is speaking to you. You're speaking to it. Let it speak to you.
Let it speak to you, and you voice it. The last thing I wanted to mention, which is another thing that again, now I put this on my vision board for this year. Not my vision board. I put it as one of my goals for this year. I actually wrote my goals down. Is health. And this is a little different. Not I'm obviously concerned about my own health, but because of my own health and some of the things I had to recently do, I got on the phone with my sisters, and it really was, my intention was just to talk to them and tell them what's going on, right? Because one of my other goals is to keep in touch with my two sisters, right? And in talking, we just started talking about, it's morphed into this family history thing. So one of the other things we did is that we're gonna now create a chart of all of the family health issues that not just we're experiencing, but that our parents and our grandparents experience, so that we can now share this with our children, and now they can have for their children, so that when they go to a doctor and they always ask you, what is your family history? They will have information by name, by the people and the different things and ailments that they experience in their life. So now when they're looking for solutions to different things that we found a lot of our children was experiencing, now they have a point of reference to say, you know what? I didn't know this before, doctor, but I found that my great grandmother had this problem.
Yeah. There's I think I had mentioned this before, but I had a young man, a Jewish young man that interned for me several years ago. And he talked about, it was so intriguing to me because he talked about they had books and books that they scribed in his family dating back to like the late 1800s, all the way up through present day. And they continue to scribe about their family, anything from health, recipes, anything that they can put in there that's going to help the family continue the family's legacy, they put in these books. And he said, as a young man, it's interesting for him to go, because he was a college student, right? Just working, interning for us in the summer. And he said, it's so interesting to be able to go back. And he actually brought one of the books in for me to see. But he said, it's so interesting for him to be able to go back and tap into these books to learn more and more about his family and his family's history. I thought that was so amazing.
The value, the information, the connection. the love that it just shows in terms of finding out different things. You might find, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing my grandfather did. You may find out so many different things. I know for us with writing down, and through a conversation and then starting to write down how many different, just in the conversation and talking about health and what everybody was experiencing prior, my father, my mother, all that kind of stuff. We found this connection of things that was happening to about 5 of us that we didn't make that connection to before. And we was like, oh my gosh, this is not just happenstance. Right. This is something we need to bring to the forefront.
Yeah.
And even in understand, how one of the other things that happened is one of our family members, they passed away a number of years ago, and nobody ever mentioned how. We heard, we heard things, but we wasn't sure. Come to find out, the ailment he passed away from, my father also had. And now it made this kind of arbitrary thing connect.
Yeah.
And then found out one of the cousins is at a doctor trying to figure something out, and then that same thing shows up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's a connection here. And now her doctors now they can go down this road so that they can see what they can do. And this is over a year of them trying to find out what was wrong with her. Yeah. And just because we had a conversation, and started writing things down, is how we found that there may be an actual connection. So they don't have to now. So for a year they can't solve this problem, but now they have a direct path to go down, so that they can get to something to give some better answers and hopefully some cures and solutions. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And you made me think about something there too, right? When you have the ability to have these conversations, start to scribe, what's happening in the family, right? Then take an assessment. Is this something that we can or want to change in our family, whatever that is, health, or whatever other area that's in, so that you can make it better for the next generation, right? Because now you have more information. So start with that information and say, okay, now let's come together as a family. Let's assess this. And what can we do to make changes?
Yeah. It is so powerful.
Absolutely.
Because we can make changes, because what you found out is everybody's suffering alone. And now we don't have to suffer. We could all come together, create solutions, talk to those connectors, and now say, okay, now this is what we can do to move past this issue. And it's those kind of powerful things. But again, when we started this conversation earlier, it was about writing things down, making things plain, and then the power in those the scribing, like you mentioned, scribing things, because there's power in words. There's power, that could connect to the spiritual point of it. Now we can pray about what kind of things we want to be cast out of our family tree. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Our family history, what we come against in our prayer time. When we pray about healing and restoring and all of those kind of things. Now that could build in that area. So there's so many ways this can go. But I think that taking that time, this time in the year, is such a critical moment. And again, say you do it 2 weeks from now, a month from now, taking the time period to stop, assess, look at what you want to do for the year, and then execute it through writing it down, setting some goals, and then watching it unfold is just so powerful. And when you do that, I'm just telling you, your life will you'll see the difference in less than a year.
Yeah. And we have to close out the show, but one more point I wanted to make for something that I saw on social media too, around manifestation. When it comes to doing what Dr. Melissa said, writing it down, making it plain, putting your vision board in front of you. There was also this manifester that said, also to make sure that you continue to vocalize it, say it out loud, look at it every day and start to speak it out loud, right? It's something about putting it all out in the atmosphere that allows those things to come to fruition. So we love you guys out there. We thank you for listening. Make sure that you go out there, get your plan together. If you don't have one and you need help, Dr. Melissa is your girl. Reach out to the girl Bossed Up. We will see you next Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to join us. Take care.